The fluorescent lights of the emergency room shone above my head as Dr. Miriam Martinez examined the deep red burns on my arm and chest. She maintained a professional expression, but I noticed a slight tension around her eyes as she recorded each injury. "Miss Thompson," she said calmly, "these are third-degree burns. You mentioned this happened in your kitchen." I could feel my parents watching anxiously behind the curtain. "Yes, my sister-in-law was cooking," I whispered. Dr. Martinez raised an eyebrow as she gently turned my arm. "These splatter marks indicate that the pan was deliberately thrown several times." I closed my eyes, remembering Diana's face contorted with rage as she hurled a pan of boiling oil at me. My brother's wife, someone I trusted, someone my parents had always favored over me because she was such a perfect addition to the family. "Rachel, darling." My mother's voice reached me through the curtain. "Remember what we were talking about in the car? Diana's having a tough time with the divorce." She didn't mean it. Dr. Martinez's hand was still on my arm. "Your parents were there during the accident." Before I could reply, my father pushed me through the curtain. "Now, let's not get carried away. Diana's been staying with us since Michael left her. She's very sensitive." "Mr. Thompson," Dr. Martinez interrupted sharply. "I need to see my patient privately. We're her parents, and this is my emergency room. Please wait outside." After they left, Dr. Martinez pulled up a chair. "Tell me what really happened." The tears I'd been holding back finally came out. "Diana moved in with us 3 months ago after my brother finally left her. He couldn't stand her violent outbursts anymore. But my parents still think she's perfect." I explained to them how Diana had gradually taken over my house, the house I bought with my own money for my work as a software engineer. How I had convinced my parents that I owed her this because the family is close. Today, I tried to set boundaries. I kept wincing while the doctor cleaned a really bad burn. I told her she needed to find her own place. She was in the kitchen making dinner as usual, acting like she owned my house. When I mentioned looking for an apartment, she exploded. "And what about your parents?" They were sitting at the kitchen table. They saw everything. Diana screamed that I was just like Michael, that I was betraying my family. She grabbed the frying pan and shuddered. My parents sat silently. Even when I was screaming, they just watched. "Diana, calm down," my mother kept saying as if to an upset child. Dr. Martinez clenched her jaw as she photographed the burns. "This isn't the first time, is it?" I shook my head. Last week, she had pushed me against the wall when I asked her to stop using my master bathroom. Before that, she had thrown my laptop across the room because I was on a video call during her TV viewing time. My parents said I was being insensitive to her mental state. "Miss Thompson, as your doctor, I am concerned for your safety. These burns will leave permanent scars, but I'm even more worried about what might happen if you go back home." We were interrupted by a knock at the door, and a police officer entered. Dr. Martinez had already called them. "No, please," I protested in a low voice. "My parents will never forgive me if I press charges." Dr. Martinez said firmly, "Your parents witnessed someone attacking you with boiling oil. They forfeited their right to speak when they chose to cover up the assault." Detective Jennifer Wong took out her notebook. "We've already reviewed the initial ER report. Dr. Martinez documented clear signs of previous injuries in addition to today's burns. Miss Thompson, there are bruises on your back from last week's wall incident, aren't there?" I nodded slowly. "Rachel," my mother's voice echoed through the ER. "Are you talking to the police? How could you do this to Diana?" Detective Wong came out to confront my parents while Dr. Martinez continued treating my burns. Through the curtain, I could hear the argument. "She's family," my father insisted. "She's violent," Detective Wong countered. "And you witnessed an assault without intervening. That makes you an accomplice." My phone buzzed with a text from Diana. "If you press charges, you'll regret it. Your parents will never speak to you again." I handed the message to Dr. Martinez, who immediately turned it over to Detective Wong. "Miss Thompson," the detective said, returning to my bed, "we are taking this very seriously. The message is threatening. There were witnesses to the assault, and Dr. Martinez's records show a pattern of abuse. We will be arresting Diana tonight." "But where will she go?" I asked, hating how worried I was about her nonetheless. "That's no longer your concern," Dr. Martinez said gently. "Now, we need to focus on your recovery and safety. I'm going to admit you to the hospital for observation, and we'll discuss your discharge options tomorrow." Through the curtain, I heard Diana arrive. My parents had probably called her. Her familiar voice rose with feigned concern. "Where is my dear sister-in-law? I want to apologize." Detective Wong nodded to 2 officers who moved to intercept her. As they led Diana away in handcuffs, her mask of concern shattered. "You ungrateful wretch," she cried. "After everything your family has done for you." Dr. Martinez squeezed my trembling hand. "That's the crux of the matter, Miss Thompson. Family doesn't do this. It's time someone stood up and said so." For the first time since Diana moved in with us, I could breathe. The burns still hurt terribly, but something else was beginning to heal. My sense of self-worth. The hospital room became my sanctuary. Dr. Martinez made sure no visitors were allowed except those I explicitly approved. My brother Michael arrived, his face paling at the sight of my bandaged arms. "I should have warned you," he said, sitting in the chair beside my bed. "When Diana started being violent, I left. I never expected her to move in with you." He gestured helplessly at my injuries. "Why didn't you tell anyone about the violence?" I asked. He laughed bitterly. "I tried. Mum said I was exaggerating. They told me to be brave and deal with my marital problems privately. When I finally filed for divorce, they acted like I was the monster." A soft knock interrupted us. Detective Wong entered, carrying a thick file. "Miss Thompson, we've gathered strong evidence. Your neighbors provided CCTV footage showing several instances of Diana's aggressive behavior. The footage of the incident with the wall last week is particularly clear." "My parents will never accept this," Michael said. Detective Wong replied, "They have to. They're accused of complicity. Their presence during the assault and their subsequent attempts to obstruct medical care and police intervention make them legally responsible." I closed my eyes, remembering how they had tried to persuade me to treat the burns at home. How they had begged me not to embarrass the family by going to the hospital. Detective Wong continued, "There's more. We searched Diana's room in your house. We found your missing jewelry, documents showing she had tried to access your bank accounts, and notes detailing her plans to force you out of your home." Michael's face paled. "That's what she did to me. She gradually took control of everything until I felt like a stranger in my own home. When I finally stood up to her, she resorted to violence." I finished speaking. Dr. Martinez came in for her rounds and examined my burns. "It will take time to heal," she said. "But I'm more concerned about your support system after you leave the hospital. You shouldn't go back to that house alone." Michael said, "She can stay with me. I have a secure apartment building with cameras and a doorman." A social worker named Yasmin joined us, carrying a stack of papers. "We've already applied for an emergency protection order against Diana and your parents. We also have resources for counseling and support groups for survivors of domestic violence." While they discussed the arrangements, my phone wouldn't stop ringing with messages from family, friends, and relatives. The news had spread. "I can't believe you're doing this to your family. Diana needs help, not handcuffs. Your poor parents are devastated." Michael took my phone and turned it off. "They did the same thing to me during my divorce. Things get better once you're free from their manipulation." That evening, Dr. Martinez sat with me during her break. "Your brother is right," she said. "I've seen so many cases where domestic violence becomes normalized and victims are pressured into silence. Breaking that cycle takes tremendous courage." I confessed, "I keep thinking about all the signs I ignored. How Diana gradually took over my home. How my parents were always on her side. How they watched her become more and more aggressive and did nothing." Yasmin, joining us, added, "This is common in abuse cases. The escalation is gradual, and accomplices help make it seem normal. But there's something you should know. Your case has already helped others. 2 other patients in similar circumstances came forward after hearing about you." Detective Wong returned with an update. Diana had been denied bail due to the threat assessment and evidence of premeditation. My parents were released on bail, but were ordered not to contact me. Detective Wong said, "Your mother tried to claim that they were protecting you by preventing you from reporting. The judge was not convinced, especially after seeing the photos of your burns and the CCTV footage." As night fell, I stood by the hospital window, gazing at my bandaged reflection. Tomorrow, I would leave with Michael, begin therapy, and start rebuilding my life. My house would be treated as a temporary crime scene, which seemed strangely fitting. It had been long before Diana had thrown that frying pan. "Are you ready for tomorrow?" Michael asked, returning with dinner. "No," I confessed, "but I am ready to stop pretending everything is okay when it isn't. I am ready to stop letting them call abuse family loyalty." Dr. Martinez performed one last checkup before wrapping up her shift. "Remember, healing isn't just about the burns. It's about regaining your sense of security and self-worth. And from what I've seen, you are stronger than you think." That night, in the quiet hospital room, I began writing everything down. Not for the police or the courts, but for myself. Every incident, every manipulation, every moment I was told to remain silent for the sake of my family's safety. It was time to tell the truth, regardless of who didn't want to hear it. After the attack, I sat in the courtroom, watching Diana's mask of innocence crumble as the evidence against her mounted. CCTV footage played on multiple screens, showing incident after incident. My parents sat on her side of the courtroom, their faces etched with deep resentment as they avoided my gaze. Dr. Martinez testified about my injuries, maintaining her professional composure as she presented the court with detailed photographs of my burns. "These were not accidental splashes," she explained. "The pattern clearly shows a deliberate and repeated pouring of hot oil. The victim could have died if the oil had gotten into her face or throat. Diana's lawyer tried to portray her as a troubled woman in emotional distress, but the prosecution had too much evidence. My brother's testimony about his own experience with her violence, her diaries detailing her plans, neighbors' CCTV footage, and threatening text messages. Your Honor, the prosecutor addressed the judge. This wasn't just a loss of control. It was a premeditated, escalating campaign of violence, enabled and facilitated by the defendant's wife's family. When the verdict was delivered, Diana's composure finally crumbled. 7 years for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, plus additional charges of harassment and attempted financial fraud. My parents received suspended sentences and were ordered to attend compulsory therapy for their roles as accomplices. This isn't fair, Diana cried as they led her away. I was part of the family. Tell them, Rachel, tell them you're destroying this family. I stood up, my voice steady, and said, families don't try to destroy each other. You did it on your own. Outside the courtroom, Michael hugged me gently, mindful of my still unhealed scars. It's really over. Dr. Martinez, who had become a friend and mentor during this ordeal, approached with Detective Wong. How are you feeling? The doctor asked. I feel like I can finally breathe, I replied. The support group you recommended helped me understand that silence doesn't protect the family, it only protects against abuse. Detective Wong nodded. Your case has made a difference. We've implemented new protocols for handling domestic violence cases, especially when there are accomplices. 3 more victims have come forward this month alone. My parents tried to approach, but Michael stood between us. They had spent the entire trial trying to downplay Diana's actions, suggesting I had provoked her, arguing that family matters should be handled privately. Mom, Dad, I said without moving closer. As long as you don't understand that loyalty doesn't require silence in the face of abuse, there's nothing to discuss. That evening, I hosted dinner at my newly renovated home. The kitchen where the assault had occurred had been completely redesigned, transformed from a place of trauma into a space for healing. Around my table sat the people who had supported me: Michael, Dr. Martinez, Detective Wong, social worker Jasmine, and several members of my support group. Standing up, I said, I want to announce something. The Victim Compensation Fund has helped me establish a nonprofit organization. We will provide resources and support to people facing domestic violence, especially when other family members are encouraged to abuse. Jasmine smiled. That's wonderful. What prompted you to take this step? I replied, something Dr. Martinez said at the hospital. Healing isn't just about the burns. I realized that breaking this cycle means helping others find their voice, too. Michael raised his glass. To new beginnings. Later, after everyone had left, I stood in my kitchen, running my fingers over the smooth new countertops. My scars had faded to silver lines, still visible, but no longer a deep red. Like my scars, this experience had changed me. It hadn't broken me. My phone rang with a message from my cousin. Your parents miss you. Can you forgive and forget? I replied with a link to my nonprofit's website, which featured my story alongside those of other women who had escaped domestic violence. Then I blocked the number. The next morning, I went to the hospital where Dr. Martinez worked. The burns unit had invited me to speak to the staff about how to recognize the signs of domestic violence. As I told my story, I saw understanding light up their eyes. I concluded, sometimes the bravest thing to do isn't to endure abuse to keep the family together, but to stand up to them and say, this isn't the real family. After the presentation, Dr. Martinez hugged me and said proudly, you've turned your pain into a purpose. As I watched the medical staff take notes and saw the resource booklets from my nonprofit handed out, I felt strength in my healing body. Diana and my parents tried to silence me, but they only made me speak louder. My phone lit up with a message from Michael. Dad came to my house talking about reconciliation. I replied, they can reconcile with respect for our boundaries or nothing at all. Standing in the hospital where my healing journey began, I felt at peace. Sometimes family isn't the people you were born into or the people you married. It's the one who stands by you when you speak your truth. The one who helps you heal when others try to break you. The one who shows you that love never requires silence in the face of hurt.
अंधेरी दीवारों में खुद को ढूंढता हूँ मैं ये जो दिन सहाने थे उन्हीं को सोचता हूँ मैं तुम्हारे बिन ये मौसम भी बड़ा बेसर्द लगता है दिल का हर एक कोना अब बहुत ही दूर भरता है अंधेरी दीवारों में खुद को ढूंढता हूँ मैं ये जो दिन सुहाने थे को सोचता हूँ मैं, तुम्हारे बिन ये मौसम भी बड़ा सर्द लगता है। दिल का हर एक कोना अब बहुत ही दर्द भरता है। मेरे साए भी मुझसे अब जुदा होने को कहते हैं। तुझे खोने की राहों में ये आंसू बहने लगते हैं। कहाँ जाऊं कहाँ ढूंढूं मेरा वो साजो सामा, तो मेरी हर एक तमन्ना तू, मेरी रूह का मका तू। लकीरों में नहीं लिखा जो तुमने ख्वाब देखा था। वफा की इस कहानी में फकत एक गम ही लिखा था। सितारों से भी पूछता है पता तेरा कहाँ होगा, मगर खामोश है दुनिया, कहाँ मेरा जहाँ होगा। बस एक बार मुड़ के देख ले मेरी बेबसी की सूरत। मुझे है आज भी तेरी वफा की सख्त जरूरत। साए मेरे तन्हा सफर बस रह गया दर्द का असर। साए मेरे तन्हा सफर बस रह गया दर्द का असर, दर्द का असर।